Tick-tock, time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over this galaxy.
This galaxy.
I'm David Wood, D-Dog Dizzle, and with me now is Vocab Malone, who wants to talk about aliens.
Facts.
Aliens.
I do want to talk about aliens.
I'm going to talk about aliens. Hey, before we get started, hey guys, how many of you believe that there are aliens out there? And I mean other creatures. Well, you could have different levels, right? You could have life on another planet, but it's just like, plants or something like that. But actual aliens, like, Klingons somewhere out there. Or they might be like aliens in the movie Aliens.
Like some form of intelligent life, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, what do you guys think? We're specifically going to be talking about aliens and religion, namely how certain religions and cults talk about aliens and go to the Bible and so on. Why don't you go ahead and introduce the topic, Vocab, before we actually start going through video clips or going into more detail.
No doubt. Well, there's a whole bunch of different questions here, as you've already laid out. One is, does life exist in some way on other planets? Then the question is, does intelligent life exist on other planets? Because you could have physical life on other planets or somewhere in the galaxy, but not necessarily intelligent life. Then there's another question of, have we made contact with them in some way? Have they made contact with us here on Earth, or has anything like that happened anyway? Is there such thing as an encounter with an extraterrestrial? And when I say extraterrestrial in this context, we're not speaking just yet. We're going to get into that thesis about aliens or demons, because technically you could call them extraterrestrials. We're speaking about in the sense of ETs, aliens, extraterrestrial visitors from other planets. Then there's another question about UFOs. Are any UFOs, which of course just means an unidentified flying object, are any of them actually spacecraft or some other kind of vehicle that are ultimately owned, or the person's responsible for them are aliens? Because you can have a UFO, but that doesn't necessitate that it is manned, or in some way, they could have drones by an alien species from another life. So there's that question. Then all these questions should really be evidentially based, and part of the Christian's evidence must be the Bible, as they take into account their worldview. And then we also ask the question, I just mentioned the Bible, for the Christian, does the Bible mention anything about aliens in any significant way, or perhaps spacecraft? Does it mention those? Because people that are proponents of different versions of believing in aliens, such as the ancient alien or ancient astronaut idea, they a lot of times will say that the Bible includes evidence that there were alien encounters in the Bible. And so you have all these various factors going on. There's a few more questions we could ask, of course, but those are some of the things we're going to talk about today. And we're going to take note of the rise of ufology embedded in a lot of modern religions, a lot of various cults. Some can probably be described as UFO cults proper, like the Hale Bopp folks, or the Raelians, or you have groups or cults or religions that have alien aspects or ufology in their theology, such as the Nation of Islam or Scientologists or something like that. And so I try to be fact-based, evidence-based. I'm a Christian, so part of my evidence and facts is the scripture. And then we look at that in conjunction with other things, and we ask real questions. And basically, the short version for me is there's no evidence there's intelligent life on other planets. And I even say there's no evidence that we've had contact with them. Of course, that would necessitate if they're not there, we're not going to have contact with them. And I would say the biblical position leans against the idea of intelligent life on other planets. And almost all these encounters and abductions and sightings can almost all be described by natural phenomena. And there's a very small amount of them that we might want to discuss that may not have immediately ready natural explanations. And those are kind of the most interesting, but they're certainly a minority within what people are claiming happens. And there are some troubling aspects about the UFOs embedded in a lot of these religions that are mainly products of the 20th and now 21st century.
Yeah, we have a bunch of different perspectives here. We have people who believe in aliens, people who don't believe in aliens, and different reasons that people are giving for what they think about aliens, and some people saying that aliens are demons and things like that. And so we have a bunch of different perspectives. I'll just go ahead and fill people in on my view. I remember growing up, even when I was a little kid, 7, 8, 9, I had no problem with the idea of aliens, but all the stories of aliens visiting Earth, I thought those were pretty ridiculous, because my thinking was just, simple. I was thinking, wait, you're telling me this alien flew here in a ship from another star, and when he gets here, after all that space, after all that flying through space, he decides to go probe some redneck in his cornfield? You would think they would show up and, greetings, Earthlings, something like that, try to establish communication or something like that.
Or David, they fly perhaps millions of miles, right, David? Mm-hmm. And then they get to Earth in their highly technologically advanced spacecraft that just traveled from planet whatever, and the first thing they do is crash.
Yeah.
the very first thing the alien does is crash into the Earth's surface. The weather storms were just too much. Forget about the asteroids and conquering the physics of the light years of travel. They get to Earth and, oh no, there's rain.
Yeah, so Vocab and I I'm guessing we're both a little bit skeptical about some of the claim. Possible, but, when we're hearing the claims, as Vocab's pointing out, you flew across the galaxy to get here, and then, you crash in someone's field or something like that, then, that there's something a little off about that.
Or you travel all this way, just like you mentioned, to speak to some, redneck, ostensibly. You travel all this way just to create a pattern in some guy's crops.
Yeah, you want to cut circles in there to see, send people signals or something like that.
What is this alien horticulture? Sure. And what's funny about that is, David, you'll hear these guys be like, well, humans can't do that. And you'll find out that humans can do that. They can do that exact thing. The funniest thing I ever saw of this was in this documentary, and this guy wanted to basically disprove a lot of the alien phenomena because he had a friend who was caught up in it. And so he said, let's go on a trip across the country and let's see if there's any truth to what you believe. So he was trying to help his friend out. So he goes, and one thing that he did that was the funniest thing in this whole little documentary, David, I feel like you would appreciate it, is he's at this guy's field and he shows him, because he knows he's a true believer, he shows him the evidence of the crop circles on the ground. So nice. They have not gotten to the aerial yet, right? Mm-hmm. They're just on the ground, and the audience is in on the joke, but he shows this guy, and this guy is supposed to be an expert. He's like, well, you can tell by the pattern, by the way the stalks of grain fell, that this is clearly alien activity. Like, he goes in this whole thing, how this is obviously alien activity based upon what he saw on the ground. So they get a plane, they get a small plane, they go up. And what the guy had carved, because the guy did it the night before, was a fist like this with the middle finger up. Yeah. So he looks at it's flipping him off from the ground. It's clearly, human invention. And the guy was super upset. The guy in the plane that realized he had been had was so angry.
It'd have been funny if he'd have done it, but with like an alien fist with like 3 fingers on it.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't know it's a middle finger, just like E.T., poking Elliot or something. But yeah.
Yeah. So we have Steffi here. She says, I think UFOs are secret military. That's been my inclination whenever I've talked to someone I trust. Like, I was locked up with a dude named Doan, and he admitted that he was stoned out of his mind. But he said he passed out on a softball field and woke up, and he said there was this ship over him that was like as big as the softball field and stuff like that. And he was dead serious. He's like, look, I was stoned, but, I could still, I wasn't that stoned. And so I was like, well, yeah, I mean, could it be a government ship or something like that? He goes, I have no idea. It was just a big giant thing hovering over me. So there's those kinds of issues. But anyway.
Well, can I comment on that real quick?
Oh, yeah.
So Steffi is a lot more grounded in this than I think a lot of people are, because we got to stop and look at the idea of a UFO. All it means is whoever sees it, whoever the you is, they don't know what it is. And I think we should understand that. But people do sometimes make the leap that a UFO equals a flying saucer. Well, hold on. A flying saucer is identified. So if it's a flying saucer, we know what it is, right? If it's merely something you don't know what it is, it's not immediately identifiable. It just means you don't know what it is. So it's not explained, but that does not mean it's unexplainable. And from what I've looked in, and I don't claim to be expert on this, I kind of recently got into this for a variety of reasons. A lot of the things that that people do see that it seems like they really have seen, and they really these objects do act odd. And what it looks like they're doing physically, meaning it doesn't follow what you would think a normal jet would do. The ones we can't explain, it does seem like the evidence leans toward these are actually government experiments. That's exactly what they are. And not always only our government. There's other governments that can be involved with this. But the government does not have an interest to say, hey, this is actually our secret aircraft. We're working on this. We're working on that. Because the government has worked on some weird stuff. The government really did have a thing called MK Ultra, where they really did try to do mind control. And if you read about MK Ultra, it sounds like a conspiracy theory. Then you read about it and you realize this really happened, and it kind of got out of control. It didn't really, wasn't very successful. But the government does weird stuff. They might be working on actual anti-gravity crap. This is real things, right? So a lot of this stuff it appears is government stuff. Heiser has a good DVD on this called Aliens and Demons. And he I think gives evidence a lot of stuff is exactly that. Except I don't agree with all of his positions, especially towards the end of the DVD. It gets a little odd. But I think he brings out that a lot of the stuff is simply experimental governmental craft. That's all these UFOs are, for the most part.
So your solution to the problem of UFOs is to deny aliens by appealing to a conspiracy theory. All right, we got it. Conspiracy theories. Now, see, here's what's interesting, right? Here's what's interesting, because I'm skeptical of both aliens sightings and stuff like that, and I'm skeptical of conspiracy theories. So we have to get to the bottom of this. But I just wanted to point out that so when I was young, I didn't have a problem with the idea of aliens, in some other part of the universe, but I didn't believe that they had actually come here. But then by the time I was in high school, this is what was cool. Once I had taken biology and so on, and I realized how complex life is, I concluded that there's no way this ever happened again. Right? Because keep in mind, I was an atheist. I was an atheist at that time. So I believed that it happened, looked around. Obviously, it happened. Obviously, life formed. But I was like, yep, we were the lucky ones. This was the lucky planet. There's no way this is happening anywhere else on the planet. I mean, in the universe, unless it's something vastly different in the sense that it's somehow had much simpler origins. And I've even seen some of the people commenting here that someone said it's a mathematical certainty. And if what you mean by that is, well, the universe is so big and there are so many places that life would just form again. No, once you understand the odds of getting a single, just one medium length useful protein, you understand this is not happening again. What I mean there is, for the simplest life on our planet, I think it requires about 350 functioning average medium length proteins to perform the processes in the cell. It's either 350 or 450, and they've done knockout experiments thinking that you could get rid of a couple of functions and still have a functioning living cell. But here's the problem. You can actually take the number of particles in the entire universe and calculate all the way back to the Big Bang and calculate the fastest that these particles could possibly interact. You set the speed of light as an upper limit. right? So the fastest they could be interacting would be the speed of light. That would be the upper limit. And then you've got all the particles in the universe, about 10 to the 80th power. And then you've got every second since the Big Bang. Those are your entire explanatory resources if you're trying to account for life arising by chance. And what you find is you can multiply those out and you get the total possible number of particle interactions ever. And what you find is, given those odds, you're not even close to getting one protein by chance. You're not close to getting one by chance. And you need all of them. You need all of them necessary for life in the same spot. And it's just not happening. And so anyway, I concluded, not using that argument, but just knowing the parts of the cell and thinking there's no way this happened, which is cool because that eventually led into a kind of design argument. Maybe if I already understand that this couldn't happen anywhere else, it's too improbable. Maybe it didn't happen here either, and maybe we're actually created. But now that I'm a Christian, I have no problem with the idea that God created something on other planets or created other species on other planets or something like that. But you have a couple of questions. One, did he? If you read the Bible, you don't get the idea. It seems like we're center stage if you read the Bible. And then two, are certain passages in the Bible talking about aliens? Or are they talking about something else? So a couple issues there. So anyway, long story short, I'm actually more open to the idea of aliens as a Christian than I was as an atheist. I thought there's no way it would happen as an atheist. As a Christian, you believe in a creator, obviously could happen. The question is whether it did. And so those are my thoughts on this. But we're actually focused on this issue of aliens in religion vocab. So vocab, you can talk more about this, or we can go into some stuff, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, well, all good points of what you just said. A resource for people that I think is helpful is a book by Jay Richards, and I believe they made a movie about it as well. There, at the the spot that Stephen Meyer runs, I just forgot what it is. They focus on intelligent design.
The Discovery Institute.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, there's a book called The Privileged Planet, The Privileged Planet, and I think it's really helpful to what you were talking about, and brings this into focus. And there's a lot of fascinating stuff in that, and I'm pretty sure they made a really good movie of it, like I said, or video, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, there's a DVD of that, and along those lines. By the way, that was actually part of my thinking when I was in high school. It's we say, but there's all these different galaxies out there and stuff like that. Yeah, the vast majority of those galaxies would not be hospitable to life. And even in galaxies that you could have life in, you got to be in a very specific place in those galaxies. Like you go closer to the center of our galaxy, there's too much violent activity. If you go farther away, there aren't enough, heavy elements, and so it's just you got to be. So their argument is actually this particular planet is massively privileged.
Yeah, excellent. Exactly. And, part of most people's thinking, if they're being consistent about this, about why, as far as secular intelligentsia goes, why they really push for the idea that there must be life elsewhere. And you can see it evidenced with, the program like SETI, where we send out intelligent messages into space, hoping we get some back, which was, romanticized or whatever in the movie with Jodie Foster, Contact, written by Carl Sagan, actually. Who's sort of like Dawkins before Dawkins in a sense. Well, the idea is if life evolved here, then it could have happened elsewhere. It must have happened elsewhere, But just like you said, it does seem biblically that the earth is a center stage. Isaiah 66:1. The heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Psalm 115:16. Even the heavens are the Lord's, but the earth he has given into the children of men. Isaiah 40:22, I think, as well says that. Romans 8:22. Then you go over there, Paul speaks about how all of creation grows because of Adam's sin. So Adam's sin had cosmic ramifications where it affects everywhere. And so at the end, you see Revelation 21:1, where what's going to happen is there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. And that goes along with the dissolution prior to that you see in Isaiah 34:4. So when you look at that, you have to ask yourself, okay, then how would aliens fit into that? Are they in some way affected by Adam's fall? And if so, how does that really make sense? The federal headship idea that is present with Adam, we're all in Adam, or we're all in Christ. That's why that's first, second, and the first and the second Adam doesn't make sense with some species living out on Mars or a moon of Jupiter or anything like that. And imagine what the gospel to them would look like. Well, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, Adam, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't comport. So there are problems there. It's not that it's impossible. I do think we can say, what's the scientific method on this? And then look. And so if someone says, well, maybe in the future, well, then okay, but that's the future, right? So okay, it could happen. And when you get into this, most of this is just bad science and a lot of hoaxes and a lot of stuff that can be explained through natural phenomena or things that are misunderstood. And so when someone says, I had a sighting, what did you see? That's a big thing. Or who's qualified to determine what's what? A sighting of what? You know what I mean? And so there's a lot there to consider. So do you want to move on to some odd aspects of religion, how they have these in here? And what I'm trying to do, especially if you're a Christian, is I want you to think more carefully about this, because alien lore is way more popular than it was, say, 150 years ago. This really all began in the late 40s with Roswell. You could maybe trace it to begin sort of the late 19th century with some fiction writers, such as the War of the Worlds and things like that. But as far as when it really begins, a lot of it begins with Roswell, and then 1951, the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. Everything has really come out in the past, the time since then. This is when this rise, and so people were like, well, that's clear evidence of some kind of alien invasion or some kind of contact because you see all these more sightings. No. We're forgetting about the media and its influence on culture. I think Christians really have to really take stock and be highly skeptical about these claims and just really ask what's really going on here. So I think we're going to see more UFO religions, not less. And I think Christians need to be much more on guard than ever before with this, because there are some dangerous components to ufology for Christians, such as the messages supposedly received in alien abductions. Regardless of if an abduction happens or not, David, the messaging is pretty consistent, and it's usually bad as far as the messaging supposedly received in these alien abductions. So there's some issues. So you want to look at some clips with some UFOs inside people's religions?
Yeah, we can check them out. Let me respond to one quick comment right here, because this is a common silly point. Anthony says, when you look at the size of the universe, all holy books make no sense. So the the claim is, you got your holy books. They don't make any sense if you got a big giant universe. You'd expect God to make a little tiny universe, I guess.
Well, for the Christian, what do the heavens do? They declare the glory of God.
Yeah, and well, what's funny about that is the entire, the reason we have, William Lane Craig being a champion of the Kalam cosmological argument, the reason we know that the universe had a beginning, it hasn't always existed, right? So for a long time, there was a dispute about whether the universe is eternal or whether it actually has a beginning. The argument for the beginning of the universe is that the universe is expanding. And how do you know that the universe is expanding? Well, you see those galaxies far, far away, and they're massively redshifted, which means that they're moving away from each other very, very rapidly. And so you do the math and calculate backwards, and that's how you know that the universe actually has a beginning. So you don't even know that kind of stuff. So you wouldn't even be able to, if you had a little universe that's not expanding or something like that, you wouldn't even know that stuff. You wouldn't even be able to make an argument that the universe had a beginning, apart from just revelation or something like that. So, yeah, I'm not. I want to say the reverse, because if you listen to cosmologists, a small universe, something like that, a small, simpler universe is much more likely to happen in, some, whatever you want to go with, if you're talking about cosmic vacuums and stuff like that. If you're getting universes, something smaller and simpler is much more likely to form than some giant thing like this. And so I'd kind of say the reverse. It's kind of the bigger and more amazing it is, I don't know, seems like the more you need a pretty big creator. All right, you want to go into some clips?
Yeah, so I do urban apologetics, and so I look at various groups, and that's kind of how I got into this, is because I saw a strange and incursion of some ufology type stuff, and even some of the alternative urban groups that I studied, and that kind of led me to look at the larger phenomenon to an extent, because historically, a lot of black folks have made fun of ufology as white people stuff, but it seems like that's changing. It seems like that's changing. And you look at some of the religions that bears witness, Nation of Islam and the Hebrew Israelites, for example. And you also have the really, just again, it's the people do not, I think we really underestimate how powerful pop culture is in shaping people's consensus. Like, it is a proven fact when you study this in depth, that after the day the earth stood still and some other things like covers of science fiction books came out, when people would have certain experiences, they'd be describing these aliens just like they were portrayed in certain media. It's a fact. Now, did they always do it on purpose? Were they ripping them off? I don't know about that. I don't think everyone involved is a fraud, but it's interesting that they were portraying them in terms that they had seen in some way. Maybe it's subconscious, don't know, but you can really see this. And another interesting thing that relates to this is you have a situation where a lot of times the aliens themselves, if you notice the technology that they're described as having when people do describe these encounters, it matches a lot of times foreseeable technology or technology we'd have. For example, aliens using needles. Well, it's way better to get you can learn a lot more by doing various scans of the body than you can with needles. And yet they've got aliens poking people with needles all the time instead of scanning them. Because when a lot of the stuff was invented, you didn't have that technology. So people got aliens with needles, right?
Yeah,
taking biopsies.
I'd use a tricorder. I'd use a tricorder, man. Oh, hang on. Someone said my mic is too low. Is that the case? Check. Let me go ahead and turn it up. Just a little bit. Me to tell check. Oh, hang on. Let me respond to this little comment, because this is back what I was talking about before. Brenda said that's a non sequitur. I assumed she was talking about me talking about the universe. No, I think people are trained just to say non sequitur whenever they don't agree with something. No, Brenda, that would not be a non sequitur. That's an argument. The idea here is very similar. If you're walking around and you find an arrowhead on the ground, well, you can make an argument that maybe that arrowhead formed by some sort of natural process. If you find a computer, that becomes way more improbable that something like that formed by chance. Well, you can actually do this with the universe and the properties it has and things like that, and the things in it. The more you're trying to explain by chance, the more improbable your explanation becomes. So yeah, if you were just trying to explain away an arrowhead or something like that, well, yeah, you could imagine, given enough time. Well, let me give you another example. You could look up in a cloud, and sometimes a cloud will look like a turtle or something like that. If you were walking through a cave, which actually happened at some point, and you found the Venus de Milo broken in two pieces, right? They found the Venus de Milo in an underground cavern, right? How did they know that thing is not a natural rock formation? Well, you could say, hey, that thing, those two broken pieces, that's a natural rock formation. You could say that. But the more you have to explain by natural causes, the less probable your explanation is going to become. So when you have the entire universe and life and the constants of physics and so on, becomes really, really improbable to just say, yep, happened, boom, exploded out of nowhere. So you can disagree with the argument. That's not the same as there being a non sequitur.
Right. No, good point. And I'm not saying that anyone believes in aliens has these philosophical underpinnings, but we need to at least recognize. I just mentioned how evolution is the backdrop of some of people's idea. Well, there must be, right? This kind of idea. Well, there must be because it happened here. Why not over there and over there, right? There's another issue, and you see this briefly come up in a pretty well-known Richard Dawkins interview, and I believe the original source was with your guy who was originally Bueller, Ben Stein, in his Expelled documentary where he interviewed him. And Dawkins said he was trying to be charitable, and he basically said, well, if you wanted some version of intelligent design, I could see it if it was seeded here by aliens who came and sort of dropped it off. That'd be the way I could have, I guess you could have intelligent design. And so it is important to recognize some people, like astrobiologists, for example, some who are saying, let's look to the stars, let's look to the clouds, let's look for evidence the aliens came here, this and that. Sometimes it's because they believed in pan or transpermia, the idea of life seeded, created by intelligent beings from somewhere else. So they're willing to have, in essence, what is intelligent design. They're in a sense granting, okay, there's an intelligent design, and it is produced also by a higher power, a higher being, but not deity. Of course, aliens who are much more advanced than us seeded life here, and that explains life. Now, of course, we all recognize where we should. That is simply not dealing with the question of where did the aliens come from, right? How did they get here in the first place? It doesn't really answer the question of life on Earth in a very satisfactory way, because it's not dealing with the universal implications. But it is a fact that some of the philosophical presuppositions for some of this drive are very secular indeed. Now, again, I'm not saying you can't be a Christian and da-da-da. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we should recognize some of the presuppositions driving some of this search, because there are some people who are looking for even the clouds, the stars, for a savior. No, they'll come and show us how to be peaceful. They'll give us this new technology.
We are at peace.
Yeah. My favorite, Mars Attacks.
I was going with that was V.
Yeah, well, because in Mars Attacks, that my friend Abu turned me on to, the aliens are going around zapping everybody with their lasers, right? And they just disintegrate, turn into nothing. And while they're doing it, we are your friends. We are peaceful. We are your friends. Well, we mean peace. The whole time they're zapping them.
I don't know where they come from, but I know which religion they follow. I'm not gonna name it, but
those Mars Attack aliens, you know what religion they serve? Yeah. Well, their language goes Akbar. Just kidding.
Greetings.
All right. So let's look at a clip here. Going back to this, Louis Farrakhan is the leader of the Nation of Islam. And he inherited it from Fard, who he's going to call Fard. When you guys see the clip, you'll know what I'm talking about. And then after him, Elijah Muhammad, who also mentored Malcolm X. Now, Farrakhan's still alive, or should I say Farrakhan. Farrakhan! Sorry, I'm getting carried away. He's still alive. But a lot of people don't know that Nation of Islam, as further evidence that they are not truly Islamic, has key aspects of ufology in their religion, such as a mothership, which they do identify with the wheel saw in Ezekiel 1. That's how they're describing it. And I have a 1-minute clip, if David can play it, that gives evidence of this. And he basically says Elijah Muhammad is driving this spaceship. Mm-hmm. So you ready to play this?
Oh, 1 second before I have to get rid of this. Adamas' dad said, to serve mankind. You know what he's talking about there? The Twilight Zone?
Oh, no.
Did you ever catch that one? Yeah.
No.
It's kind of a spoiler alert, but I mean, gosh, if you haven't seen this old episode of the Twilight Zone by now, but there were these aliens there, same idea. They're just here to help. And their book is called To Serve Mankind. And they're talking about all the ways they're going to help, and they're going to bring human beings to their planet and stuff like that. So they keep loading human beings onto their spaceship. And then they find out, and the guy yells at the end, "It's a cookbook!" It's
a cookbook. Jeez.
Get it? To serve mankind. It's about it's a cookbook
gross.
about different ways to cook human beings and so on. Right. All right. You want to go into this Farrakhan clip?
Yes. And guys, just stop. I'm not saying that everyone who believes in aliens believes the same way. And this actually, even though it is a little funny, is not intended to just poke fun at the NOI, okay? Don't go there. But the thing is, this shows the incursion into places you may not know about and how quickly bizarre it can get. And once you start relying upon special revelation outside the Bible, supposedly, really the gates are open to anything, as evidenced by this clip.
You see that wheel? That's from a giant mechanical object, which is the mind of Master Fard Muhammad, the master of the wheels. He helped to make me.
Go ahead, Yes, sir.
You can take it or let it alone.
Taking it.
He made my father, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
You thought you killed Elijah.
Come on.
I don't represent no dead Elijah Muhammad.
That's right.
I represent a living Elijah Muhammad who is on the wheel. And I had the two pictures floating around on the airplane.
That's right.
To let you see who's the master of this day that we're in.
Yes, sir.
Well, that was pretty powerful.
July 4th, 2020.
Well, that's 2020.
Yep, July 4th, 2020.
Oh, wow. Yeah, seems like he's kind of slowing down because, I mean, gosh, Farrakhan, you got to give credit where credit is due. That dude is one of the best speakers of all time. You got.
Oh yeah.
Phenomenal.
His power, his oratory, his power is very powerful, no doubt. I mean, he is older. He's been through a lot. He's conquered some sickness and all that, and it's a big question. What is going to happen to him? What's going to happen to the NOI rather when he dies? There doesn't seem to be a good successor, but never underestimate the NOI. If you poke around long enough, you'll find that they have a number of younger men who have become very adept at using social media. And the big guy, I did a show with BK Apologist. Shout out to him. Everyone subscribe to his channel if he pops up. Rizza Islam, I believe is how you say his name. He's got a grip of social media influence. And you even get Hebrew Israelites and other people sharing his videos. And so he's not the only one. There's another guy named Brother Ben X. And so these guys end up getting to be on the Breakfast Club and talking to Charlemagne and stuff like that. And so they never underestimate or count the NOI out. But it is interesting to see what will happen when Farrakhan passes. But did you hear what he said?
Yeah, he said, fired!
And then he said he is alive manning this spaceship. That's what he's saying. Like, Elijah Muhammad is flying a spaceship right now, and apparently Farrakhan saying he got a picture of it.
He did. We all saw it. Some people doubting, saying it looks like the sun peeking through something. Come on, you guys saw the definitive proof that Master Fard Muhammad was peeping at you from his spaceship.
And what's important about that is this shows how if you do have what technically is a UFO, you can literally exegete it any way you want. So you can say, well, that's a mothership with Elijah Muhammad at the wheel, right? Or you can say that's a peaceful alien coming to share his technology with us. Or those are aggressive aliens scouting out because they're going to destroy us like an Independence Day or try. You see, you can say it's whatever. And that's where Christians, I think, sometimes got to be careful, because what a lot of Christians say who get into this is it's all demonic activity. Now, here's the thing. I don't discount that possibility for some of these things, some of these encounters people are saying that they have happened. And I talked to Heiser about this. He said, look, when it comes to the craft, they are unidentified, or most likely, most of the time, natural phenomena, or these are experimental. Take the wheel. These are experimental spacecraft. He said when it comes to the abductions, the ones that may be real, there may be demonic activity there. And there's some evidence, now I've got to look more into it, by a guy named Guy Malone that studies this, that people that basically bring Jesus into the picture. So they become Christians, and then they invoke the covering of Jesus in their life in some way, in Jesus' name, that these alien abduction experiences cease. Now, I have to still look more into that, because some of the Christians that have gotten involved with this I find are kind of wacky. And I'm not saying Guy Malone. I'm just saying some of them are. So I'm still looking into that. That is possible, that the alien abductions in some instances could be demonic activity. That is possible. But here's the problem. I find too many Christians automatically saying, well, look, they reported it, therefore it happened. Just because they report an abduction does not mean it really happened. I think we need to be very careful about that. Very, very careful about that. Such as Ray Ale, who's the leader of the Ray Alien cult, who was a French race car driver or something, and now started this group called the Ray Aliens, who wear all white with a Star of David with a swastika in the middle as their medallion. He says he had an encounter with a being named Yahweh, right? So you could say, well, that's clearly he encountered a demon, or he's just making it up. Mm-hmm. I don't know for sure, right? I mean, I think it's dangerous for Christians to definitively say that's what it is. Do not forget how many liars and charlatans and con men there are in this world. Never forget that. And so they might just be talking crap, because guess what? Ufology in the conference circuit and jumping on these History Channel shows now is actually a decent way to make a little cash and do all right for yourself these days. It can be lucrative. You know what I'm saying? And so I think people need to recognize that. But look at that. I mean, he's saying that these UFO craft are going to come and destroy America. That's what he's saying. And Elijah Muhammad apparently is manning one of them.
Probably the best one.
Yeah, he's got the tricked out one. He
got the spinning rims and stuff.
Yeah, he's got like the one with the gold.
Which actually sounds like the prophecy, man. You got some spinning rims on that thing.
Well, okay, you want to go to Ezekiel 1 then?
Yeah, we can.
Can we play that Heiser clip before we look at Ezekiel 1? It's only 3 minutes, and I think he does a good job. Now, again, I do not co-sign everything Heiser says, although I wouldn't want to argue with him. The dude is one of the most knowledgeable and guys out there, right? So I don't want to argue with Heiser, but I just don't buy all his conclusions. But he's good on helping people see Ezekiel 1 is not about a UFO. Because have you ever seen Chariots of the Gods, David? Came out in 1970, one of the first films on this that promoted this ancient astronaut idea. It kind of set it all off. A guy named von Daniken, as a Swiss guy. And it set it all off. You can watch it on you can watch it on YouTube, right, or Amazon Prime. It's pretty creepy, but a lot of stuff that's come since him is sort of a ripoff of a guy named Stitchin and Van Daniken. And I recommend Crash Go the Chariots, a little book written way back then by a biblical scholar who showed that Chariots of the Gods, the book and the movie, a bunch of crap. Like Von Daniken, I'm gonna keep on messing up his name. Claimed to breed languages. There seems to be no evidence to that. He seems to be one of the first guys who promoted this. Ezekiel 1 is actually evidence that the prophet Ezekiel encountered some kind of alien craft. So it seems like you're smiling. You want to say something? You're smiling about something.
No, I just think of stupid stuff. Stuff. And I was thinking if I was that Swiss dude, I'd be like, if you don't believe in aliens, how do you explain our awesome army knives, huh? Anyway, that's I was just thinking of that, right? I was thinking, how would a Swiss guy make an argument? Like, what do they have that they can really argue has to come from God? Because how
furniture, maybe.
You know how people are like, you need aliens to build the pyramids or something like that. So I was thinking, what do they have? What do they have in Switzerland? Like cocoa, Anyway, I thought of Swiss Army knives, and then I thought how stupid that was. So I kind of laughed at myself, and I wasn't going to say it, but then you called me out on it.
Actually, what's funny though, in all seriousness, David, what you just said, I am not kidding you, because I've been looking into this. There are people out there who promote the idea of ancient astronauts who came and brought us super technology in some prior era. There are some of them who literally, it almost seems like every single thing you could imagine that is a product of human culture, they say aliens brought it to us. Now, granted, they don't all do that.
This phone was reverse engineered from the spaceship at Area 51.
I'm telling you,
I've heard that before. I've heard that before.
Yes, I didn't understand. One of my barbers, I didn't understand what he was saying when I first met him, and he kind of spoke cryptically. But I realize now, as I look more at this, my barber was just, all he was doing is advancing, because he was saying stuff like all the Marvel movies are actually based upon stuff that actually happened in the past. He's like, where do you think they get that idea from? And he literally thinks all of the Marvel material is based upon some reality in the past that we somehow have a nascent, inherent, latent memory of. And he's dead serious. And the thing is, it's kind of a joke, but it's kind of not, because there is that guy, that one Greek guy. I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens. I mean, that seems to be like a real thing with everything. Even Transformers, one of the Transformers movies had that idea. They had Megatron being ice cooled and under some dam in Nevada or something like that. I forgot what the details of the first movie are, but they say all the major modern technological marvels of the 20th century have come by reverse engineering out of him. Or if you watch Stargate is these aliens who came from another planet through a Stargate.
The movie or the TV show?
The movie. I never watched the TV show.
I never saw the
but
TV show either, but I saw the movie.
Stargate's
Kurt
thesis. Yeah. It's a decent movie. It's sort of silly, but it's kind of cool in a way too. Stargate, they come and they're responsible for the wonders and marvels of ancient Egypt. And the aliens actually look like the gods of ancient Egypt. So like that's what they're doing there. Cowboys and Aliens. That movie with the 007, the Bond guy, or Daniel, whatever his name is. That movie has part of Stitchin's theory in it that aliens came here to like mine gold and stuff. And if you look at Cowboys and Aliens, when they discover the aliens in the movie, they're mining. My point is, this is showing up from these old weird theories from the 60s and 70s. And people have these strange ideas. And we just got to watch out for it. So let's look at Ezekiel 1, though, because there are people who say, well, aliens. Yeah, the Heiser clip. That is number.
I got it.
It's number 4.
Yeah, I know.
Should be number 4.
Just
3 minutes.
I did want to say, though, I never watched Cowboys versus Aliens, but I like the idea of just taking those two genres together. Mm-hmm. And I have this idea about, I'm just wondering if someone has done it, like in China, but Kung Fu versus zombies. It's a zombie attack, but centuries ago in China, and like Kung Fu masters have to fight the zombies or something like that. You put those together, no one steal my idea. Don't run out and write a script until I come out with it. Like, we can make our own. We can just make it out in the desert.
We could.
Okay.
We could.
We need
come out to Arizona in the winter, and we can film.
We need some Asian actors. So we got Nate. Who else we got?
Nate's down.
I could play a zombie.
I got some other homies. I got a couple homies around here.
All right. Do it. Kung Fu versus Zombies coming to you later this year on YouTube. All right, here we go. Michael Heiser.
On Ezekiel 1.
On Ezekiel 1. Mm-hmm. Hey, maybe you should get Ezekiel 1. Is he going to read it?
He goes through some of it. I'll bring it up. I'll grab my Bible right now.
All right.
Well, when it comes to the book of Ezekiel, I get the question about its vocabulary a lot because most people assume that you go to Ezekiel 1, you have an ancient spaceship there. And it's prime fodder for ancient alien material. The problem is a lot of people don't even read it closely. For instance, if you actually look at the Ezekiel account, Ezekiel chapter 1, and a lot of it's repeated in chapter 10. For instance, the only thing that's round in the chapter are the wheels supporting the rachiach, the platform or the expanse, atop of which Yahweh, the God of Israel, is seated. There's nothing else round. And the reason that's significant is because you look at some of these ancient alien descriptions about Ezekiel chapter 1, and they have the expanse on which Yahweh is sitting as a UFO, as though he's piloting some sort of alien craft. But if you actually read the text, the platform, the expanse, is not round. It's never described that way. The other thing about the vocabulary is Hebrew has a lot of words for round objects, other than the word for wheel. I've already said that the word wheel is in there, the four wheels and all that sort of thing. But it has a lot of vocabulary for things that are round. Kikar, shelet, yagil. There are 5 or 6 or 7 different Hebrew words that are scattered throughout the Hebrew Bible for round things, shields, loaves of bread, that sort of thing. None of them are found in Ezekiel 1, not a single one. So the only thing that's round when you get to Ezekiel 1 are the wheels supporting the platform. But Yahweh is not riding around in a spaceship. The wheels, we know what that is. We know what each of them are. We know why that description is what it is, because we have iconography from the Babylonian period. Remember, Ezekiel is writing as a captive in Babylon. We have iconography from Babylonian period, earlier Assyrian periods, Phoenician material. It's a cherubim throne. It's a throne. It's a seat. It's a chair, as it were, mounted atop cherubim. And in some cases, those cherubim had wheels because the gods were pictured, and the God of Israel is often pictured in the Hebrew Bible as riding around the sky, traversing the heavens on the clouds. And so the mode of transportation, other than boats in the ancient world, were chariots and chariot thrones. So these are all very normal descriptions, but other than the wheels themselves, the expanse that people think is a UFO is never described as being round. It's a chariot. It's a throne chariot. And it's very easy to spot and know what Ezekiel's talking about if you're familiar with the ancient Near Eastern material.
Boom.
I have to disagree because I clearly remember hearing a song go, "Wheel in the sky keeps on turning." 1 second, we might have a problem here. Kung Fu.
There's also an old spiritual that goes, Ezekiel saw the
dang it.
wheel. What? What's wrong?
There's a 1981 movie called Kung Fu Zombie. Hang on.
Well, we have to see it.
Stars Billy. It stars Billy Chong as a martial artist who must fight supernatural foes. This must not have been very good because I would have totally seen that like a million years ago.
Yeah,
I grew up on a Kung Fu theater on USA.
Somebody, I lost track of the comment, was saying, "Oh, you guys are late to the party," and then named 3 people: Missler, what's his name, Marzulli, and another guy. I'm trying to find it, and said you need to check out their work. So here's where I'm just gonna be somewhat conceited or something like that. I respect and love those guys as Christians. It seems like they all are and all that. But I don't think you can trust everything that they do on this topic. I've mentioned that I do not agree with some of Heiser's view sort of the heavens and all that. No doubt about that. However, when you get into these other guys, it really seems like their discernment on the issue is lacking. I really think they accept a lot of stuff they should not accept, and they believe some really weird stuff. And once you get deep into this rabbit hole, you can get really strange really fast. I sent my friend Alfredo Valentin, who lives in Brooklyn. I think you met him when we were out there in New York. I don't remember if you got to meet my man BK Apologist. But I sent him a website the other day, David, and it literally is all about Nephilim hybrids, and literally says, are you a Nephilim hybrid? Has someone told you that you're a Nephilim hybrid, or do you feel like you're a Nephilim hybrid? Well, that doesn't mean you're outside of the grace of God. Nephilim hybrids can be saved too. Here's the gospel of Jesus Christ for Nephilim hybrids. And it then broke down the gospel for Nephilim hybrids. Now, I appreciate the person's can-do spirit. You know, they think there's Nephilim hybrids still on the earth, and they think they need the gospel, so they're going to bring the gospel to them. But that's how bizarre this gets. You know, Nephilim hybrids need Jesus too. Oh, there it is. Elizabeth Marshall Smith. You guys are really late to this dance. So first of all, you know, I show up late. It's fashionable. I'm a slow cap. So what? Zola Levitt, Chuck Lister, L.A. Marzulli. Be very careful. If you're going to look at someone, Heiser is better on this. The old book by Wilson, Crash Go the Chariots, is better than this. And even though I don't agree with all his stuff, this is a book I think you really have to look at this. Gary Bates, Alien Intrusion, and they also made a movie that you definitely want to go to creation.com and download it. It's one of the best movies I've seen on the topic, really well done from a Christian perspective. Start there and look at that stuff. Even Hugh Ross's Little Green Men and Lights in the Sky book. Those are better than some of the really wacky speculative stuff that we really got to watch out for as Christians, because we start sounding crazy and we don't realize a lot of the presuppositions from some of the people we're agreeing with are really decidedly anti-biblical. Just got to say that. Now, can we comment on Ezekiel 1 there, David?
Yeah, you can comment all you want.
I saw a wheel on the ground beside each creature. This is portions of Ezekiel 1, 15 through 20. This was the appearance and structure of the wheels. They sparkled like crystal light, and all 4 looked alike. Each appeared to be made like a wheel intersecting a wheel. As they moved, they would go in any one of the 4 directions the creatures faced. The wheels did not turn about as the creatures went. The rims were high and awesome, and all 4 rims were full of eyes all around. So you have wheels within a wheel with eyes. This is not actually for real transportation. This is symbolism describing something about the chariot that Yahweh is on. When the living creatures moved, the wheels beside them moved. And when the living creatures rose from the ground, the wheels also rose. Wherever the spirit would go, they would go, and the wheels would rise along with them, because the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheels. Now, what they do is basically try to say, hey, this is like Ezekiel's overwhelmed with experience, so he's trying to write in what he knows how to write. And so that's what's going on here. He's identifying what it is he's seeing. And if you read all of Ezekiel 1, it's clear. And if you read Ezekiel 10, it's even more clear. And when you read the symbolism from the other portions of the New Testament that can contain similar descriptions, you're even closer to understanding what he said. Then when you branch outside that and look inside of some of the ancient Near Eastern context, then you start to really understand even further. So let me say this, and this was some information brought up by my man, BK Apologist. I mentioned him several times. He helped me a lot on this topic. All the elements in Ezekiel's vision, everybody, are to be found in other ancient Near Eastern art and religious iconography of the day. Now, the exact thing Ezekiel describes is not anywhere in the A&E. That's shorthand for ancient Near East. But each element is. So this is an amalgamation of various representative aspects that he's putting together to describe the glory of God. So when you look at Ezekiel's era, before and after and contemporaneous with him, you find these same elements. For example, the cloud and storm elements, incredibly common to the Old Testament. You find Yahweh is the one who rides the clouds. Our friend, I believe, Islam Critiqued did one on Yahweh in relationship to riding, I think, not the clouds, if I'm not mistaken, but I think the storm or the water or the ocean, and showed how it's evidence of Jesus' deity when he walks on water in the New Testament. He has an excellent video on this. I forget the exact thing, but is an excellent example of how to do biblical theology proper. Islam Critiqued is really sharp. That's a very good video. I think it's called Yahweh the Storm Rider or Cloud Rider or Water Walker, something like that, but it's dope. So these are common. And you see them with the storm gods from Ugarit and outside of Babylon, such as Baal. That's who he's supposed to be. Now, that's also common in Israelite thinking. But what they do is the Israelite authors, they subvert it. They take this common religious imagery from the pagans, and then the prophets subvert it and say, and God's in charge of that. This is a common thing that they do. It's actually polemical. And ancient Near Eastern scholars who have looked into this, I think with an open mind, have understood Israel is not plagiarizing. They're simply using the language and imagery of their day, sort of the Polaroids of the ancient world is how one scholar described it. They're using those to subvert the power of these gods and say, no, but it's all about Yahweh. He's outsing the pagan gods, specifically here along the lines of a Babylonian. And this is just a fact, and you can find it if you pick up a good commentary on Ezekiel. You'll find them talking about this exact thing, and so that's very important to recognize. Now, are you able to bring up the PDF or the PowerPoint I sent you? There's 5 images I want to show. If you can't, don't worry about it.
You have to tell me.
Wait,
you have to tell me
can
which
I do
one to
it?
get. You should be able to share it through Skype with a screen share.
Okay, I'm just going to try. If it doesn't work, we won't even worry about it, okay?
You have to tell me when you do it because I have to check for another camera angle. But go ahead and try it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are experimenting. Other people have done this before, but Vocab's trying to do a screen share. Let's see how this works out.
Take down all the stuff I don't need, so I've only got the one guy on the screen here.
Let's see if this works.
And then I hit...
share screen or something like that.
Okay. I think I'm going to the right place here. Okay, settings, more, share screen, boom. Okay, I just hit share screen, but I haven't hit start sharing yet. I'm going to the PowerPoint itself, and I just hit start sharing. Okay, I just
and 1 second, and all right, we have it up on the screen.
Okay, so these are examples from non-Israelite art, contemporaneous before and after of Ezekiel's day. And so you see the first one, this 4-faced deity, he's kind of on the platform there. And then you look over it and you see figure 2, you see them holding up something. See this winged bullman as sky bearers. That's why you have these creatures who are holding the platform there. There's the throne. And you have the throne situation. The throne is on the platform there, and these are from Israel's neighbors who were not believers in Yahweh, and yet you have the same imagery. There's the wheeled platform, and you also have similar stuff going on here. And again, this is from their cultural neighbors, and you can find this stuff online and look at it, and you'll realize a lot of the imagery is very similar, but it's used in an amalgamation there. And here's probably this is Alfredo's favorite one. The guy who's got eyes all over him, along with his junk hanging out. I'm just kidding. When we did the show, I was teasing Alfredo about sending me this picture. Like, bro, why are you sending me? I've seen images. But there's the many-eyed God. Now, in the case of Yahweh, the many eyes all over the wheels. If we just stop and think about it, even if we didn't understand the A&E imagery, the wheels can go in any direction. This is the omnipresence of Yahweh. The eyes represent he can see everything everywhere. He's aware of it all. So he's omniscient. He's omnipresent. Okay, and so that is very important. Now, here's why, and this is drawn out of a commentary. And again, shout out to BK Apologist for putting this together, a.k.a. Alfredo Valentin. With Ezekiel, this was incredibly important because he was in exile in Babylon at the time of this vision in Ezekiel 1. You know, because he's beside a river that is right outside of the city. Okay, he's in exile. He's not in Jerusalem. He's not in Israel. He was supposed to be doing priestly work. He's 30 years old, according to the vision, I believe. But he can't do priestly work because he's not in the temple. So it's almost like he's out of a job. He's in exile along with everybody else, especially the elite of Israel. So he has this vision that tells him God is with the Israelites still. And this is what the Babylonians would do. It was very common. They would take populations of people, put them in another place, and break them down that way. And so the idea, the temptation would be to leave the religion of Yahweh, to leave ancient Judaism, depending on how you want to call it, what you want to frame it, and to embrace the gods of your captors, because clearly their gods are more stronger according to certain understandings. There's a verse in 1 Samuel 20:16 that explains it, where you a lot of times have these tribal deities, this is the way people looked at them, who had power based upon certain geographical locations that they were on. And that's what the screen is saying right now. And these gods could only be properly worshipped in their country. And you see an example of this with Naaman. After he is healed, he asked Elisha if he could take a patch of dirt with him and worship the true God while his master, because Naaman was healed by the prophet, so he recognizes Yahweh as God now. While his master worshiped the false god, he says, can I take some dirt from Israel to worship your God? And Elisha said yes. So he sort of condescended to Naaman's understanding, which is kind of a misunderstanding, but this is how Naaman was going to worship God. He's taking what he views as holy ground, basically, to represent he's going to worship Yahweh. That's literally what he does there. And so I'm just going to show a couple other slides, since we have the slide up, because this is important to understand, because you got Christians getting all kinds of weird and wacky stuff. Oh, we got to show that in a second. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a second, but there's some other stuff if we have time.
So you want me to go back to us?
Share. Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing right now anyway. So the point by me bringing all that other stuff out is to say with Ezekiel 1, it's actually very important and practical to understand what really is happening there, which is God is saying, I'm not stuck in Jerusalem. I'm not stuck inside the temple. Your work is not done as an intercessor before the people. You are going to take on this prophetic ministry. I am here with the people, even though I've judged them. That's why this deportation happened. The eyes and the wheels represent that. It's nothing about a UFO. And in the Chariots of God movie and book, they try to say, look at these landing platforms. And then they put it up, kind of superimpose it with a picture of the lunar module and say that's similar to what he saw. But it's ridiculous because a lunar module is not even capable of planet to planet travel. That's not what it's for. So it's silly that they're drawing the comparison anyway. They say, look at the fire. That's evidence of a combustion engine. A combustion engine is not going to get you through space. There's just all this bizarre misstep that people make, and we really need to watch out for. And all it takes is a little bit of digging around the context. You realize, nah. Now, we don't have time, so we're not going to do it today, David. Maybe if you ever want to talk about this again. There's a bunch of other places these alien lookers go in the Bible to try to ransack it for evidence of encounters. But we're not going to do that now, but at another time we could, and we could debunk them all, because none of them are what they say they are. So everybody just watch out. That's what I'm trying to say.
I have a disturbing comment here from Jeffrey D., who says, watch Kingdom, Chinese zombie series on Netflix with some martial arts, and Versus, early 2000 Matrix zombie hybrid movie. Those are the only ones that kind of fit what you said. You have any idea how messed up it is when I come up with my own idea and then it turns out other people stole it before I came up with it? All right, so people have come up with some zombie kung fu movies. You could always make one better, and mine would obviously be better. But has everyone done all the combinations? Like, has someone done zombies versus cowboys? You know what I mean? Like, the president is trapped in a cave surrounded by zombies, and the only plan to save him is to send in a team of Billy the Kid, Jesse James, Wild Bill Hickok, and Doc Holliday, and Snake Plissken.
I don't know who that last guy is.
You don't know who Snake Plissken is? Man, get out of here.
The other ones I recognize.
Escape from New York and Escape from Los Angeles. You got to.
Oh yeah, Kurt Russell.
Yeah, with the eye
We'll
patch.
just have Wyatt Earp then, but okay, I got you.
You had to toss. Yeah, you got to toss Snake Plissken in there. All right. What do you want to do? You want to take some questions? You want to go through more videos? We have.
Take me to your leader. Well, so here's what we could do.
Take me to your drugs. It must be some good stuff.
We could.
That's what we used to say. That's what we used to say to Doan when he was talking about seeing the aliens while he's stoned out of his mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, we could hear some Wood stories about alien stuff because you have some funny comments. We could rock that, or we could look at some imagery from the Hebrew Israelite side of things.
Oh yeah,
with what they do with UFOs, which is super bizarre. Or we could even look at the Hebrew Israelite who claims to be able to summon UFOs. Or we could interact with a live chat. I'm okay with whatever. It's your show.
Hey, hold up. You remember, guys, I don't know if you watched the video, but way back when we were up in New York last year, and we went and we rolled up on a group of Hebrew Israelites in Harlem. So we rolled up on them while they're broadcasting, and then we had what was that? Was it like 2 hours? Like 2 hour discussion. I was just standing there. I was just standing there because you guys know way more about it. But I was just
2.5 hours.
Yeah, but,
David Wood was the cameraman.
Yeah, I'm just standing there. It was cool because they all knew me. Right?
David Wood, you might be an Israelite because of your beatbox.
Yeah, the lead. That guy's the leader of GMS.
That is the leader. He has been in this thing since the 80s.
The leader of GMS. What are they called? They're not called sects. What are they called? The
camps.
Different camps. The leader of the GMS camp of the Hebrew Israelites thinks I might be because vocab. They actually believe that you can be white skinned, but you trace your genealogy back. You are a Hebrew Israelite, and the way you can figure out your true genealogy is by things like how you can dance or beatbox or something like that, or sing or something like that.
Or play basketball or rap. Like, do you have flavor?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They think, these particular guys think Bruce Lee was a Hebrew Israelite, for example, because the way, he had skills on that. So people, they're not, they say it's not about color. They say it's about lineage. And they say they believe in something called the confusion of face doctrine. And so GMS, Hebrew Israelites, believes you could look like whatever and still that. So they all thought David was a Hebrew Israelite. And I told David, I said, I bet you these guys are going to love you. And he's like, no, they're not going to like. And right away they liked him.
It's funny because I told you I like them too. I thought they're cool. So anyway, long story short, you could still check that out on Vocab's channel where we had that discussion. Sam Shamoun was there, Adam Coleman, John McCrae. We all rolled up on him. And what was funny was we left, and that's when they had their alien encounter right after we left.
Oh yeah. So what was interesting is there was a fellow apologist from I believe he lives in Newark, and so he was taking the train in to try to meet up with us there at Morningside Park. His name is G-Man, but he did not get there in time. We had to leave. It was getting pretty dark, and so we had to get back. So we're going back, but right as we were leaving, apparently G-Man came right after us. So he had his phone on and stuff, and he said when he was walking with them to their car because they were leaving there, they started all freaking out. And G-Man was like, "What is it, guys? What is it?" And they're like, "Look, it's the chariots!" And I kid you not, the euphoria in their voices was very hard to match. I mean, it was just utter euphoria in their voices. The chariots. And G-Man's like, I don't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, "Look up there, it's confirmation of the chariots." And they all start going, Yahweh, they start doing all that. And he puts it up, and there's just some lights in the sky, which lights in the sky.
Could be all kinds of things, right?
Yeah, you're in New York City. There's lights in the sky. But, they're freaking out that it's and they viewed it as sort of confirmation that they had done a good job. That they had done well. And so I'm glad that was actually recorded. So after we left, GMS claims that they saw chariots, and they view that as a sign that they're ready to come wreak shop on the earth, because they don't believe they come from other planets. They believe they come essentially from another dimension. So most people do think of extraterrestrial, like coming from another planet. There is an alternative theory.
You got people in the chat. You got people in the chat rolling with that. So I mean, matter of fact, right here. I mean, probably dozens of comments,
interdimensional. In fact, people that believe this is mainly demonic activity, they hold to an I believe it's called interdimensional hypothesis, which is they're there, they don't show up all the time. And that's what Yahweh claims to be doing. Prophet Yahweh, I hate to say his name, it's blasphemous, but this Prophet Yahweh guy, he claims he can summon them through his prayers. And there's a news clip where he claims to do it in Vegas. And so he's a fascinating guy. But we could do anything. We could show you could show their imagery. I could share my screen again, or we could play a Prophet Yahweh video. What do you want to do?
It's your topic, sir. I just want to address one comment here before I ever forget this awesome idea. Steph. Zombies versus Prophet Muhammad.
Well, we could have
a zombie movie with Muhammad. With Muhammad, and the zombies are trying to eat Muhammad, man. Oh, you can even have it where like it's the future and the world has been destroyed by Islam, so the government starts a zombie apocalypse during the time of Muhammad to stop him, but then the whole movie is Muhammad having to defend himself against zombies. Yeah.
You could have it where you could have it where Muhammad, if he's around, then he thinks all the alien visitors have revelation for him. He thinks everyone's got a revelation for him.
Gabriel.
meet me in a cave.
Or you think you could have like women zombies he thinks are like his hotties.
Oh yeah.
We could go in a lot of directions with this. All right.
They could be Islamic zombies where they're not after people's brains, they're after camel pee. So we have to protect all the camels or something because they're always trying to go after camels. Okay. Okay.
Wait.
What?
Muhammad, I got it. I already got the beginning, man. I got the whole beginning.
Yeah.
Muhammad tells some dudes because they feel sick that they need to drink some camel urine, but it's like the bat leading to coronavirus. You know what I mean? They drink some camel urine out of this contaminated camel, and it turns them into zombies. And that's how the zombie apocalypse starts. People obeying Muhammad's command to drink the camel urine leads to a fight for their very existence. That's too perfect. See, if you get the movie, but then you incorporate all kinds of teachings of Islam that are relevant to the story, that's where things really go well. All right, what do you want to do?
To your leader.
All right, I got my screen up. Can you share? Can you share that? Share it. Is it showing up?
I have the technology, and your screen is up.
All right, let's show some GMS since we just were talking about GMS. Now, we have left Nation of Islam. We're not talking about Raelians. We're not talking about Scientologists. We are now speaking about GMS Hebrew Israelites. This is their artwork. In fact, if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, you actually see it says GMS down there with several scripture verses on the left hand and the right side. And you can see all that. And this is artwork that they created, okay? And I'm going to zoom in on a part here. Okay, I'm going to zoom in, and I want to show you.
These guys do make a pretty funny artwork. I see that guy with a sword and holding a severed head.
Yeah, of course David Wood thinks that's funny.
Wait, did you go down to the bottom? You see the one guy who's got this dude around the throat.
Yeah. I always call him Little Timmy.
He's got his giant fist around that dude's throat. These guys are awesome.
Yeah, I always call him, like I said, I always call that guy Little Timmy. Poor little Timmy. Yeah, so he's got it around his throat there because they believe that's what they're going to do to the other nations when they come back. Now, interesting, David. Do you see the two buildings in the background?
Oh yeah, Twin Towers.
Yeah, they've got the Twin Towers. So now I don't know if this was made before or after 9/11 because they may be saying, you thought that was bad, we're going to be destroying all your skyscrapers, Esau. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they're saying this is prior to 9/11, but I kind of doubt that because that looks like the 9/11 images or something. But these spaceships here on your screen, if you look closely, do you know what movie they're from? Especially this big one right here. It's photoshopped from a movie.
Is that No, that's not the Will Smith one, right?
It's Independence Day.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the one. Randy Quaid flew up into one of those.
Yep, exactly. Oh, look, they got two twin towers. So it's all of Esau's buildings in the background there. But look at this guy has a really large sword, like way bigger than his body. And, he's got this large fist. And if you notice in the background, do you notice, I don't know if you can see it how well. Do you see there's beams coming down and there's people in the beams of the spaceships?
Oh, yeah.
Here's why.
See a blue beam.
They believe that the lake of fire is thermonuclear destruction upon America. And so what's going to happen is there's going to be a ship, ostensibly the mothership, because it's blasting from its center a giant laser ray that will be destroying America while Hebrew Israelites are getting beamed up like Scotty and a landing party. They're getting beamed up to be saved from the destruction. And while that's happening, other Hebrew Israelites are going to be taking part in the destruction and be killing wicked Gentiles. So this image is essentially their eschatology.
Pretty cool.
And you notice how UFO centric it is. Extremely so. But here, we'll go to the next one.
It would be funny if that dude that he's got around the throat, they just put like some random team jersey on, like he's wearing like a Baltimore Ravens jersey or something like that, and the dude's got him around the throat.
Baltimore
and
Ravens.
that would like convince all the Pittsburgh Steelers fans to support the Hebrew Israelites.
That's just what I was thinking when I saw that. So here is Yahweh Shai. So this is Black Jesus, Yahweh Shai. He's got a red sword, and he has the eyes, not just because he's angry, but because he is equipped with laser beams out of his eyes, just like Christopher Reeve. And what's going to happen is the Hebrew Israelites who are elect or chosen will also be granted this power when Yahweh Shai comes back. And so they will be zapping Edomites together with laser beams out of their eyes. So there's multiple levels of destruction that are going to be visiting upon America, according to Revelation 18 and the Hebrew Israelites eschatology.
So the question is, if I'm actually a Jake, then I'll be shooting out of my eyeballs with lasers too, right?
Yes. If I could say a PG-13 word just for the point of proving it. One time Tahar told me through video, he said, "Now, Vocab, we don't know if you're an Israelite or not, but if you are, you're going to be along with us kicking those heathens' ass, whether you like it or not." And so,
it's your it's your destiny.
Yeah.
It is your destiny.
Yeah, so that is really what he told me, bro. And so you've got it figured out. Now, here's Yahweh Shai on the cross. Now, it just looks like Yahweh Shai on the cross, but you see the GMS logo on the bottom left, but look in the background.
I see the spaceship.
There's a chariot. And in the background, it's not just Yahweh Shai's crucifixion. There's also a chariot present at the event. Okay, now switching over to another camp that's supposed to be more respectable than GMS. I'm saying that's the way they promote themselves. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think GMS, to be frank with you, is just more honest, and I actually prefer GMS over IUIC any day. But here's IUIC, though those beginning ones were all GMS. This is IUIC. Now, here you've got the man with the shofar horn calling down, apparently, or maybe because it's the war thing, the UFO. So it's like a... And then here comes the spaceship. The rapture is only for the Israelites. So they're getting caught up, beamed in the spaceships, but ain't nobody else doing it. And the crazy thing is, what they think is the elect will get caught up in the spaceships, while the 2/3, so like the renegade Jakes, they're actually going to get destroyed if they're wicked. But it's when they come back in the kingdom that they'll be able to then be restored, and then they'll be beating up the other nations. So if you're not one of the elect, you won't be taking part in the initial destruction. I should clarify that statement from earlier. But when the kingdom is there, then you'll be able to beat up on the other nations. But as Tahar says, you might have to go through the first 1,000 years without an eye. And I kid you not, that's what he says. He's like, you might be missile food. You might have to go through out with a leg or an arm, but then you'll be restored later on, because they believe in an ethnic universalism. Now, this is just One West style Hebrew Israelism. This is not all Hebrew Israelites. This is specifically the One West camps. Mm-hmm. Now I want to go back to the old school one, David. This is old school Hebrew Israelite imagery going way back.
Yeah, the artwork is I mean, that's clearly someone just drew that rather than like, making it on like Photoshop or something.
Yeah, so that's back in the day, right? This shows how far back this goes. And the rumor is, according to the old school heads, is what they say that a particular man who was one of the 7 heads, that's what they call their leaders, started bringing in the work by an author with the last name of Stitchin. And Stitchin is kind of following in the heels of Von Daniken and brought in a lot of these other crazy theories, and that's everything he does. There's actually a website called stitchiniswrong.com, which was actually initiated by Heiser himself. It's a good website and debunks a lot of Stitchin's stuff. But they were influenced by Stitchin, and so they've got into this UFO stuff real heavy. And there's the chariots, and if you notice, there's 12 people there. So those are the 12 tribes of Israel with Yahushai in the middle. And if you look closely at his hand, Yahushai, that's Black Jesus, he's actually shooting a Iron Man Magneto-like laser beam at White Jesus there. White Jesus with the Sacred Heart. He is blasting him for real. And everybody else got their swords out, right? And if you look, the devil and the Pope are on both sides of Jesus, as well as a Jew and apparently an American businessman, perhaps a young Donald Trump. And then there's sort of a Greco-Roman guy on the right side. So they're getting at all their enemies is the idea here, right? And pretty bizarre, but it shows how it goes back. Salvation of the lost tribes of Israel, the 12.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But
I can't wait.
It's
hey,
fascinating.
if you look all the way on the right of those 12 dudes, all the way on the right, second from the right, that's a white dude. That might be me if I grow my hair out.
Well, so remember the 12 tribes have people like Cubans and Dominicans and Puerto Ricans and Seminole Indians and Mexicans.
People who just kind of look white like me.
Yep, and so that could be one of the guys from those tribes. See the guy in the headdress right beside Yahushai? By the way, it's funny, Jesus is supposed to be 30, 33. They make him look like he's 85. Here's Jesus all old looking. But the guy next to him, if you notice, he has a war bonnet on. Yeah. So that would be someone from Gad or Reuben. So this just shows how the One West Hebrewites, are pretty steeped in this. And look, they updated the picture.
Oh, nice.
And if you look in the bottom, they still got white Jesus being blasted by Yahushai, but it's Jim Caviezel's head.
And they got the American flag and the Statue of Liberty burning.
Would you say this is what, SNES graphics, Super Nintendo era graphics style, or maybe a little bit after?
Yeah, it's better than the original Nintendo, but not as good as now.
And then you got some more kind of pixelated stuff, but it just gives you a sense of the imagery. Some of it's pretty epic. This is probably one of my favorite ones. I mean, there's just a lot to look at here. I'm going to go back to that one. I'm going to see how many more we have. And then, okay, jeez, man. It's quite a bit. Yeah, I know. It's kind of epic, right? In a way. I mean, look, you guys riding a chariot. You got these guys. This is probably my favorite one, though.
Greetings. Take us to your stuff. It must be some good drugs.
This guy's more like,
where's the President of the United States?
And because that's who he's going after. So, I mean, you get an idea there. Do you have a question about any of those? I'm just showing you the UFO iconography. We probably got to wind down here, and maybe if we ever do this again, there's other stuff I could show because we're not going to get to today. But, David, we have not told people to subscribe to my channel. They need to.
Yeah, the link to Vocab's channel if you're interested in aliens.
I hardly ever talk about this stuff.
If the only thing that you're interested in is aliens and religion, then subscribe to Vocab's channel because he covers that all day, every day. And so, no, Vocab, why don't you tell them the stuff you normally cover on your channel, and the link to Vocab's channel is in the description box.
Right now, we are airing on the channel the special edition of Islamicize Me. So if you guys haven't seen it in a while, it's been 2 years since it's out, you want to come because we're premiering it. Because when we first did it on your channel, David, we couldn't premiere it. You just had to upload it, and then everybody would comment immediately on it, which was fun. Now, everybody, we can watch it together. So you can watch Islamicize Me together on my channel, youtube.com/Vocab Malone. And we're like on day 23. And that's going to be important here in a second. I'll tell you why. But so subscribe because I cover stuff on Islam, including airing Islamicize Me. Plus, as you could tell, Hebrew Israelites, I do a lot of live streaming about them. I do this thing called the Smoke Room. I just got done doing it today, where I take anyone to call me on Skype and I just talk to them. So that's kind of fun.
And then you get smoked.
Yeah, I get smoked. That's exactly what the Hebrew Israelites say, by the way. And then I sometimes do freestyles, and those are just to be fun. We do urban apologetics. We just kind of have fun with that. And then I cover Islam, Hebrew Israelism, and then some alternative urban religions as well. So a little bit of Nation of Islam and a little bit of Kemetic stuff. That's the guys who are really into Egypt and whatnot. And then I just do Bible studies. So like this Wednesday, I'm just going to be doing a Bible study on Malachi 3, the passage about the infamous, the prosperity preachers use, they misuse it, about robbing God and being prosperous and blessing. We're going to look at the context of what that means and really just do an in-depth study of Malachi 3. And the next Wednesday, we're going to do another Bible study of Malachi 3. So kind of just biblical theology stuff. I do a lot of book reviews as well, go through a book together. Lately, I've been doing stuff on dismantling pro-Confederate myths, which some people have had a problem with. But I've been doing it, and no, it's not because I'm a Marxist or anything like that. But I think it's important to understand the truth about this. So I've been looking at that. So a variety of things, but really focus on Hebrew Israelites number 1, Islam number 2, and then every now and then we get into atheism, Mormonism, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Roman Catholics.
We should do something on the Confederate stuff one night.
Oh, I've got some great stuff. Maybe we could do that for. I wish I could get together once a month with you. Maybe we can do it at the end of this month or early August. If you're down, bro, I got some stuff on it.
Might have to find someone to balance it out because I'm going to tell people what I think about those rebels.
Yeah. Rebel scum. Just kidding. That's Star Wars. So, yeah, that's the kind of stuff. But I bring it all back to saying Islamicize me. Check this out. And you know this, David, because we're going to talk about this Tuesday. Day 23 of Islamicize me has been banned from my channel. So the editor uploaded it to the channel, and YouTube struck it down. I submitted appeal. The repeal was rejected. And what I said is, this is satire, and I even try to speak the language. This is satire designed to educate people to become anti-racist. And I went because this particular issue shows the anti-Semitic views of certain aspects of Islam. And so what they do is we confront the Hebrew Israelites for real on the street as Muslims. If you've seen Islamicize Me, you know it. Well, YouTube is giving me my first community strike and not letting it run on my channel. So here's what we're doing. This Tuesday, David, you and I are going to talk about it and show some clips, I think, and discuss it briefly and about sort of all that kind of stuff together. And then that next Thursday, I am airing Day 23, the Snowflake Edition. So every time that they say that our characters say anything that we think YouTube might have given us a strike for, we do things like beep it out and then put a little YouTube logo over their mouth.
Oh, that's smart.
Yes. And so it's literally and we're retitling it and everything. So it's Day 23, Snowflake Edition. So that's this Thursday. You'll see how we're trying to please the YouTube masters. And then you and I, David, are going to talk about it this Tuesday. So that's what's popping on my channel.
D New says it was the best episode of Islamicize Me. That was definitely up there. Guys, you got to understand how funny this is, right? The idea of Islamicize Me is that we're some atheists who converted to Islam on a kind of challenge that was supposed to show us that Islam is true, but we don't know anything. And so our characters, by day 23, realize that their enemies are the Jews, so they go to find the true Jews, but the Hebrew Israelites are the ones claiming to be the true Jews. So you have this showdown between our characters and real Hebrew Israelites who are standing on the street, and we end up outraged at them because we're showing them from Islam sources that Muhammad is like the whitest dude around. And so how can you guys say that, the kingdom isn't for white people when Muhammad was the whitest dude in Arabia? But yeah, it's actually us on a street in Phoenix in front of a group of Hebrew Israelites with us fully dressed as Muslims. And those Hebrew Israelites totally punked out. Like they didn't know what to do with Muslims, right? They're probably used to interacting with Christians and stuff. They had no idea what to do when a group of people dressed in full Islamic gear rolled up on them. So they just completely ignored us as we challenged them to their faces. Wow.
Yeah, they said nothing.
IUIC, man. IUIC. Totally punked out on that one.
Yep. Israel united in cowardice. And so by the end, I was calling them cowards. So if you want to watch Islamicize Me Day 23, the original version, it is on a certain channel. I don't know if I want to name it because I don't want to get that channel in trouble. And it's on a couple other places in YouTube as well. So you can see it online. Just put Islamicize Me Day 23. Not on my channel, though. So I'm retitling mine, putting out this edited version, the Snowflake edition, and we'll see if it's okay, because it's clearly not hate speech. We are mocking and satirizing anti-Semitism to educate people through humor and comedy, but my appeal got rejected. Yep. And so I encourage everyone to upload it.
We are making fun of the hate speech that two ideologies would put out against each other. We're making fun of it, and then YouTube basically said, in effect, you can't make fun of it. You can't make fun of the
and they don't tell you, what is considered going against the community guidelines. So we have different ways that we sort of strike back, and way I'm going to strike back is I'm literally editing out anything that I think could be offensive. Mainly, the main guess is they are not understanding the satire or not wanting to, and so all the satire that is making fun of racism, we're bleeping out. I think it's funny. It's over the top. You have to understand the context, I think, to get it, but it's going to air this Thursday, and we're going to talk about it Tuesday, so I'm looking forward to it. So that's why you get to subscribe to the channel, man.
Mm-hmm. It's about 9:40 here. Want to take just take some comments for about 15, 20 minutes and then close out?
Yeah,
I'll go ahead and because we got super chats going back to the beginning. I don't think I've responded to any of the super chats. You just look for any comments that you want to respond to, and I will pull up super chats as well.
Yeah, Sarah Hagee, you guys rock. Shout out to her for a super chat for sure.
Apu Bakr Al Puff Daddy said, "Howdy, Mr. Malone and Dr. Wood. Dr. Wood, your video on the 5 types of law enforcement officers was very informative, enlightening, and inspirational. What kind of reaction have you gotten from law enforcement officers, ex-cons, etc.? Would you testify in Congress on police reform bills?" I'd be happy to testify on anything I know about. I don't think I'm going to be getting invited. But no, the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive from both ex-cons, from people who work in prisons, and from correctional officers, and from police officers. There are a couple people who said, "Oh, you're justifying hostility against police officers," and then at the other extreme was, you didn't go far enough in calling things out. But the overwhelming majority of people, whether on the ex-con side or the ex-con side or law enforcement side, were saying, you're right on the money, and those are the kinds of people that we have all encountered. So yeah, almost everyone. You can read through the comments. Almost everyone agrees with me.
Yeah, I heard tons of good feedback about that, and I really liked that video you did as well. It was a super interesting perspective. That was really good.
I agree. It was pretty dope.
Yeah, it's funny because it was one of your longer ones, but I think people were like really engrossed with it. I don't think they even realized how long it was. Like, they're like, wait, this has been almost an hour.
A lot of people said that. A lot of people said, I thought it was 10 minutes.
Yeah, so that's cool, man. That was dope, man. I think that was unique. I mean, we haven't talked about this. Did you see, because you talk about doing stuff with the South, did you see, and in cops, this is why I'm reminded, those guys out there at Stone Mountain in Georgia, the armed black militia?
No.
The name of the group was NFAC, which stands for Not Censored Around Coalition. Not effing around coalition, right? So these dudes went out to Stone Mountain, where the reinvigorated version of the KKK was founded. And at Stone Mountain, they have like the Confederate version of Mount Rushmore. It's like Lee, Jackson, and Davis, and they're all like carved in the side of the mountain. So they went out there, right? Mm-hmm. And they march, and it's like hundreds of dudes, like more than you ever saw the Black Panthers doing. The reason why I mention all that is it's first of all, it's interesting, it's fascinating, right? This like black militia, you don't see that every day, right? But the guy begins his speech with a bunch of Hebrew Israelite stuff, but then later on they chant some Islamic stuff. So it's like a real weird syncretist. Yeah, but I did a video on it. You should look into it. I think you would find it fascinating if you look at it. It was a very fascinating thing. This just happened 4th of July weekend. We're having 4th of July, and I did a show on it. But people were asking if I'm on BitChute. Not really. I've just started a Minds account, but I haven't uploaded anything. And I just got on Parler, but I'm just sitting there. I'm not doing anything yet. Right now, I'm still using Twitter,
you should,
and Facebook, and all that stuff.
You might want to check out Parler.
I'm on there. I just
no. I'm saying you might want to check it out because a bunch of Christian apologists went over there. But yeah, I'm getting more interactions on Parler than I was on Twitter, even though I had way more followers on Twitter. So I'm just wondering if Twitter actually sandbags your stuff. You know what I mean? If they hold your stuff back. So you might want to check it out and see what happens. All right, couple comments. Hindu historian says if sapient alien life exists, would the sun need to die on all planets hosting such life to redeem God's imperfect creation on those planets? Not sure because we're not told. Any thoughts on that, Vocab?
Basically, they would need to be saved as well. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, whether he would, I guess, if Jesus would have to if the Son would have to become incarnate on all those planets in order to die for them over and over again, something like that.
But yeah, I agree with those kinds of. Now we understand Carl Sagan is not taking that into consideration. I mean, he's dead now, but for the Christian, they really need to. They really need to think about the cosmic implications and all that. And I agree. I agree. So there's problems there. In fact, Paul Davies, who seems like he wants there to be extraterrestrial life, but recognizes
he's pretty cool. He talks a lot about fine tuning and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Mind of God book. Mm-hmm. He does have a quote, though, that basically says, look, he brings that exact kind of thing up. And he says, look, if there is extraterrestrial life, if there is this, the idea of the Christian God, it becomes very silly very fast. I'm paraphrasing Davies here, but he recognizes it's going to become really silly if that's the case. And so, and I agree. I have an email, Aaron, vocabmalone@gmail.com, vocabmalone@gmail.com.
Technically Right says almost all of the UFO sightings in the Cold War were experimental U.S. aircraft. The U-2 spy plane was infamous for causing sightings. Mm-hmm. EB's Dualism says, I believe that God has made beings in his image on myriad worlds. I believe that the fall, however, only affected humans on this planet and that those other children have never come here. Aliens we encounter are demons. So that would be interesting if you did have aliens on other planets, but they didn't experience the fall or something like that. SGT Low says, if I pray to asteroids, will aliens give me a flying horse / human hybrid?
I don't know. I mean, I hear what people are saying, but some of you guys, I mean, not to be rude, but you're just speculating. I know the last person's joking.
Yeah.
But you're like, well, there's aliens, but they haven't visited us. Well, then what would be the evidence for these aliens? Mm-hmm. I mean, I hear you. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but they're made in God's image and they exist. Well, why do you think that? Because it seems like you're saying contactees are not experiencing them. You're saying contactees are experiencing demonic interaction. But first of all, I really think we need to stop and say, are all these people who claim to be contactees, are they actually contactees? I really challenge the notion that they are properly reporting, because a lot of the stuff you look at, it is clear they are not. It's just rot with people changing their stories and not answering all kinds of wacky stuff, right? So, but you're saying it's demons. I do agree there could be some of that going on. No doubt about that, right? But then you look at it, it's like, then why do you think there's stuff on, why do you think what makes you say there's people in whatever they are on these other planets? Mm-hmm. What would be the evidence, Yeah. I mean, I don't think Christians need to fight about this. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to, figure this out. Because, David, this does get into big questions. Like, are we alone in the universe? But see, Christians, we don't think we're alone in the universe. I mean, obviously, God, our creator, but even just taking outside of that, angels and demons are real. So angels are non-physical beings, and so are demons. So they're real, but they don't have a physical reality to them. Now, there's some debate, can they manifest themselves? And if they do, in what way are they manifesting? So we're not against the idea there could be persons who are not humans. Because if aliens exist and are intelligent, I think that we would need to recognize they're persons, but they're not humans. We have that with angels and demons, right? Persons, that doesn't mean human, though. So that's a reality, okay. But what would be the evidence for these ET-like beings or whatever they would be. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Phil Fox for the super chat. That's the homie, by the way. Subscribe to him too.
Yeah, he says, "Hey Dizzle, thanks for having the coolest cat in apologetics on tonight." Farrakhan?
Farrakhan!
Farrakhan!
Yeah, see, Andrew Schnick. Roswell was a U.S. Army operation to have a disc mic on a weather balloon. The USO have messed up on terminology. Is that the same person from earlier? It sounds like they know what they're talking about. Because if you look at some of these pictures, some of these people drew back then, they're disc-shaped. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Delta-shaped, like that wing kind of angle. And then we know for a fact different governments, including our own, were experimenting with aircraft of that shape. We know for a fact they were experimenting with a Delta-type wing, that triangular. And so it's just, you have people then drawing it saying, here's what I saw. Yeah. Father, take the wheel.
Brenda says, I love both of your channels. Thanks and God bless you. Coco JC4E says, thank you so much, brothers. Annette Leo Aries says, what's up, the Vatican's observatory? I don't know what that means.
I just know they got some good astronomers there.
Oh, is that what the Vatican's observatory is? They like monitoring the universe, or?
Yeah, I don't know the details, but my understanding is they have their own, and they have some top-line astronomers there.
You would imagine they would.
Who was it? I think Polkinghorn.
Oh, was he there?
I think that's where he came from, if I'm not mistaken. We have to look that up, so no one quote me, please. But I believe so. I think Polkinghorn. I think that's what he was. I think he was the Vatican. So I know they got some real guys. You know, they're a long ways from the days of Galileo. Mm-hmm. When even if I look and I'm still not going to believe. You know, they've come a long way since those days.
Actually, that's a myth. They weren't like that. About to jump through this screen. I've been wanting to make a video for years about what about the Galileo affair.
I know there's some myths involved, but I've also seen some stupid stubbornness on the part of Rome during that affair.
No,
they did.
They did. Yeah, but it's yeah. So as far as the rulings that were handed out, if you read them, it's just, yes, we condemn you for this. But if you look closer, you had like this battle brewing between the Jesuits and the Dominicans, and they're taking sides, and they're both doing power plays on who's being weakest against the Protestants. And then you got someone like Galileo in there saying, I don't need you guys to interpret the Bible for me. I can go do what I want. And then
there's a lot of politics.
Yeah. Oh, it was massively political. In fact, when Galileo finally gets condemned, the Pope was his buddy. The Pope was his buddy. He thought, cool, I'm good to go. He went and brought his book to the Pope. The Pope said, yeah, you can publish that. Sure, no problem. And then he goes, as long as you include this one thing in your book, just acknowledge that, you know, it's possible that none of these particular theories is right. And there could be some other theory that explains the stuff even better than this, because we don't have all the data, and we don't have, you know, God's perspective on this, which he turned out to be. The Pope there was absolutely correct, right? Because you had the Ptolemaic system, and you had the you had the Ptolemaic system, and then you had the heliocentric system, and they were both wrong, right? The heliocentric system was closer, but you know that system, you know, that according to that system, the sun is at the center of the entire universe. Everything's going around the sun.
And weren't they also basing stuff off of like Aristotelian logic that things have to be perfect circles, so they didn't take into account elliptical aspects of the orbits or something like that? They
were all kinds of messed up. And the Pope just said, hey, basically don't say that this theory is definitely correct. Just say, hey, you know, we don't have access to ultimate causes of things. And, you know, and so Galileo put that quotation in there, but he puts it in the mouth of the biggest idiot in the book, right? And so he has the idiot say this, making the Pope look like a moron.
Yeah, he made the character of the idiot in his book be the Pope, basically.
Yeah, so anyway, the Pope flipped out. The Inquisition was going to give Galileo a little slap on the wrist. He was just going to have to sign a document saying, I inadvertently broke this agreement that I had made years ago on not teaching this stuff as fact. And the Pope said, nope, not after that, bud row. And so, got into. So, and he had violated an agreement that he had signed years earlier, not to teach this stuff as fact. And so,
yes, part of it was Galileo's fault. Galileo
was brilliant, but the thing he was best at, even better than astronomy, was trash talking. And so he was just like constantly making enemies because he had like contempt for so many people, and he's always burning them up. So anyway, he basically spends his career making enemies, doing awesome stuff. But as soon as they had a chance for some get back, man, they got some get back on him. And even
the Pope ain't whoa. Galileo ain't whoa.
And there's a quotation. There's a quotation somewhere. Gosh, I forget who it is. There's a quotation somewhere that says, for the atheists who are claiming this perpetual warfare between science and religion, it's interesting that the best example you can give is a guy who's put on house arrest.
Yeah,
that was the ultimate. You go live in your in your beautiful sprawling house for you live out your days there, Galileo, and that was like the ultimate example of this endless warfare between science and religion.
I think now it's evident that you are clearly a Jesuit plant.
Yes, I've heard that. I hear that all the time. You know why? Because I went to a Jesuit school.
Jesuits ain't whoa.
Marilyn Murphy says, it's Uncle Martin from My Favorite Martian. Do you remember that? Do you ever see My Favorite Martian?
I don't know what that is. I'm sorry.
It had I forget the guy's name. It was Mr. Hand from Fast Times at Ridgemont High was My Favorite Martian.
Oh, I remember him. He was the guy fighting Spicoli, right?
Yeah. He was on it was like old show, black and white. Kara said people would rather believe in melon heads than God.
What is it?
She's talking about aliens, I think, with giant melon heads.
Oh, right. Yeah. The Greys. The Greys.
Sarah Heggie says, you guys rock. And Annette Leo Aries says, off topic, but could you guys please do a live chat about sleep paralysis sometime? I know nothing about sleep paralysis, so that might be better for someone who has to deal with that. Yeah, not quite down our street there. LD says the U.S. government has released military footage of UFOs. Footage seems legit. Yeah, just to recap, we have no problem with the idea of UFOs. It's the explanation that we would be skeptical about, right? Whatever you say, if you see a UFO and you conclude aliens, well, we need to see some further information there, because we know that governments work on things that we don't know about, and so we'd want some good reason to think that this is actually aliens or something like that.
Yeah, it is unidentified, right? But just because it's not explained does not mean that it's not explainable. Mm-hmm. Hey, look, we don't have to answer this, but we got a Hebrew Israelite here, Lion's Den of Yasharallah.
Nice.
What are the 7 weeks, Beavis and Butthead?
These guys are awesome.
Cool. Go ahead. You got one?
What was this question?
What are the 7 weeks? Yeah.
Hey, Beavis, what are the 7 weeks? That's about as good as I can do off the top of my head.
Maybe I can use it for TV.
Let's see. William James says, I've never seen UFOs, and I really never believed in them. They are a conspiracy theory. That's possible, but I would even want to see a good case for conspiracy. That's what I mean. Like I don't normally go in. I mentioned this earlier. I don't normally go in for conspiracy theories or alien sightings, and so I guess just if I had to pick one, I'd go with conspiracy theory and so on. The point is, if you grant that aliens are possible and that alien visitations are possible, then you'd say, I want to see some good evidence before giving it my stamp of approval. By the way, when I'm in discussions with atheists, I use this as an example. They're like, how can you believe in a miracle? How can you believe it? It's so ridiculous. I use alien sightings as an example to explain why I believe in the resurrection, in the sense that you've got all these people who are willing to die for their claim that they saw a man who had risen from the dead, right? If all I knew was that some people claimed that they heard that a guy rose from the dead, I wouldn't think that was a tremendous amount of evidence. But when they're willing to go to their horrible bloody deaths for their claim that they saw someone who had risen from the dead, then I've got something I need to explain because they clearly believe it. And so the question is, what could convince these guys that they had seen a man risen from the dead? So all these, claims that, hey, I got sucked up into a ship and these aliens probed me for 3 days and then returned me to my farm. Very skeptical of those kinds of claims. But if someone were to say, if someone with 10 or 12 of his friends were, came up to me and said, hey, we got sucked up into a ship and we were there for 3 days. We were there together. And then the aliens brought us back, and I didn't believe them. And I was like really, really obsessed with shutting them down. And I start blowing their brains out, say, hey, admit that you're lying. And I start blowing their brains out. And all of them say, we saw it, man. You can kill us if you want, but that's what we saw. Then I would start believing, okay, these guys really are convinced that they were abducted and were taken up into an alien spacecraft. So how do I explain that level of confidence? What could have happened to these guys to convince them that they were abducted by aliens and taken up into a spacecraft? There I'd have something to explain, where I don't if it's just some guy saying it.
Good point. And also with aliens doing anal probing, you gotta wonder, like, why travel all across the galaxy just to look at some farmer's butt? And after you've seen one butt, haven't you kind of seen them all? Like, why are they still probing people's butts?
Yeah, that's that goes back to my thinking when I was, a kid. It's right, you flew across this universe to stick this glass thing in this guy's arm, or to probe some dude's butt. Seems like you could, of all the things you could fly across the galaxy for, I mean, it seems like you could come up with something better to do when you got here.
Take me to your rectum.
Sorry, man. Instead of taking to your leader, bro.
Cheryl,
yeah, but for real, that is a good point, though.
Cheryl R. with the super sticker. Mr. Phil Fox says, Dizzle, thanks for adding me to your mod crew. I will try and serve you well. Blessings to this ministry. Let's see. I think
yeah, maybe the aliens are like Sir Mix-a-Lot. They like big butts and they cannot lie.
Did someone say that?
Somebody said something like that. Noob artist.
Yeah, hey, so some people are funny in the comments. Like earlier today, I made a video, and it's called "What I Like About Muhammad." But then at the end of the video, I said, "Let me know in the comments section what you like about Muhammad." And now I have to make a totally separate video out of the funny comments about all the people saying what they like about Muhammad. So now I get to say, what non-Muslims like about Muhammad, and then just go through all the comments. So it's
Oh, speaking of all that stuff, because that just brought into my mind before he went to mosque and Aisha washed him down. I don't know why I thought that, but we put together for Islamicize Me as well, David, a supercut of all the bloopers we got so far.
Oh yeah,
and it's also going to air on the channel this week. It's super funny. It's all the best bloopers, as well as that deleted scene is thrown in there as well. So I don't know if you have any other blooper scene or the ones you sent me. But it's really good supercut.
I have a bunch on SD cards somewhere. At some point, we're just going to have to take, because those are SD cards I'm never erasing. At some point, we'll just have to sit there, go through all the footage, and see what we want to keep from all that stuff.
I got a guy.
Oh, to go through all that stuff?
Yeah. Yes. But anyways.
All right, man. Well, we've been going 2 hours, so I think we'll go ahead and sign off now. Remind everyone again when we are going to be live.
This Tuesday, you and I on my channel, youtube.com/Vocab Malone. Thank you, Cheryl R., for dropping the link there in the chat. We're going to talk about the banned episode of Day 23, as well as sort of Islamicize Me in general, and some of those kind of reactions as we look back the past 2 years. And then on Thursday, I'm going to actually do the Snowflake edition of Day 23. And then the bloopers are coming out as well. And so but yeah, you and I will be on there Tuesday. So hopefully everybody subscribes to the channel so they can know when you're coming on. We'll probably do it around 8 o'clock East Coast. It should be a good time, because that's when the episode was supposed to air, was this Tuesday. So instead, we're going to talk about why it's not airing. And that should be fascinating. And when we do the Boom Boom Room again, I think we should do one that's got an alien in it, as well as Justice, my dog. Those two creatures I think Muhammad needs to meet. I just want to say that before we leave.
Muhammad meets a dog. Last comment I'll take. Marek says, "Who are your favorite faith and science apologists?" I like, I like a couple of the, the cosmologist guys, like Robin Collins and so on, and I like a lot of the intelligent design guys like Dembski and Meyer and so on. So, yep. Matter of fact, should try and get some of these guys on at some point to discuss some things. Go ahead.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. Paul Nelson, he's more of a philosopher of science, but I love what he has to say. I think he's great. He did some stuff at Biola and Talbot for a while. He was in Expelled. Paul Nelson's one writer I really like. Kurt Wise, who's actually trained, believe it or not, at Harvard and University of Chicago, partially under Stephen Jay Gould, which is crazy if you think about it. Kurt Wise is another one. He's one of the few guys Dawkins called an honest creationist, as it were. And then actually you mentioned him as well, Stephen Meyer. I just think he's so good at explaining a variety of things, and I like the way he puts together a team. And I love hearing his debates, the few times he's been able to get one of these guys to debate him.
And Behe as well. And what's that new guy's name? My brain is fried right now because I didn't sleep much right now. He came up with it was all on proteins. His book was on.
I don't know.
His book is on proteins. The guy's a biologist. Anyway, Behe is cool because I was a biology major. I was a double major in biology and philosophy, but I can say he had some people shook. They can all say, "Oh, this is so stupid. This intelligent design nonsense is so stupid." Behind closed doors, he had a lot of people in biology shook with some of his arguments. They're going, "Yeah, that is the way to go. That is the way to go if you really wanted to shake confidence in atheism." So yeah, matter of fact, I might need to start making some videos on that stuff. I might need to put my biology degree to some use at some point in my life.
Totally, I didn't know you were a double major.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to. Yeah. Ramon said Douglas Axe. Yeah, I remember the Doug. But couldn't remember the last name. So Douglas
he's
Axe,
really smart guy.
Yeah, proteins.
Oh, and let me mention a couple of astronomers I like. Danny Faulkner, he's been good debunking the flat earthers out there, which some people are going to get upset now they said that. I like Danny Faulkner a lot. I think he teaches, he got his degree from one of the South Carolina school there. And he actually does some stuff on aliens. And then actually Jason Lyle, another astronomer. A couple of more guys I like that are good. But yeah, good stuff.
Annette clarifying on sleep paralysis. We had multiple people commenting on sleep paralysis. So Annette said, 2 weeks after I had a horrible sleep paralysis demon experience, I met my now ex-Muslim boyfriend. But there's I'm not familiar with sleep paralysis, although multiple people in the chat are. But when I was locked up, my bunkmate once, who was a strong dude. It was shortly after he became a Christian. I had the bottom bunk. I wasn't there at this time, but he said he was standing on his footlocker. He would stand on his footlocker and then sort of be leaning up against his bed while he's looking at something or reading a book or something like that. But he said he felt a hand grab him by the back of the neck, ram his face down onto his bed. And he said he tried pushing as hard as he could to get back up from this hand holding him down against the bed. And he couldn't move. And finally he said, "Jesus, I need you to help me here because I don't know what this is." And he said, and then it stopped. So, yep, there's some creepy stuff going on in this world. All right, everyone. Well, we will see you over on Vocab's channel on Tuesday. Talk to you then.
Peace out. Shalom.